Students, in the previous video lecture, we have learned about calorimetry and principle of calorimetry, and we have calculated specific heat, how to find out specific heat by the principle of method of mixtures. And we are learning problems based on principle of calorimetry, finding temperature of the mixture when hot body is mixed with cold body. So as a part of that, there is one simple question which is displayed here. 5 gram of steam is added to 10 gram of ice. 5 gram of steam is added to 10 gram of ice at minus 10 degrees Celsius. Find final temperature of the mixture. Now we have ice here. This is ice, and this ice is at minus 10 degrees Celsius. And you are mixing some steam into the ice. As a result, hot body loses heat energy, cold body gains heat energy. So therefore, when you are mixing hot body with a cold body, it should be noted that Q lost by steam is equal to Q gained by ice. Ice will be absorbing heat energy. Ice is at minus 10 degrees Celsius. And steam is at 100 degrees Celsius. That steam loses heat energy. As a result, ice gains heat energy. So first, let us calculate heat required. Let us find how much amount of heat is required to melt the ice completely. Heat required to melt the ice completely is Q equal to, ice is at minus 10 degrees Celsius. From minus 10 degrees Celsius, it should be brought to 0 degrees Celsius. So that is Qs. And ice at 0 degrees Celsius should be melted and it should be converted into water. That is QL. Latent heat and specific heat. Q will be equal to, specific heat is mass of the ice into specific heat of ice, change in temperature of the ice, plus ice in order to melt it, that is mass of ice into latent heat of ice. This is what which is, now you should find out that mass of the ice is given 5 grams, specific heat of the ice is 0.5. I'll substitute that here. Q will be equal to 5 gram into specific heat of ice is 0.5 calorie per gram degree Celsius. Change in the temperature of the ice. Ice is at minus 10 degrees Celsius. From minus 10 degrees Celsius, it is brought to 0. So therefore, delta theta will be 10 plus degrees Celsius, and mass of the ice is 5 gram. And latent heat of ice is equal to 80 calorie per gram. This gram and gram gets cancelled, degree Celsius, gram and gram gets cancelled. So Q required will be 5 into 5, it is 2.5 into 10 plus 5 8 40, 400 calorie. This is Q equal to 25 plus 400, 425 calorie. That is the amount of heat energy. Okay, I'm sorry. Mass of the ice is 10 gram. I'm sorry. So this becomes 800, and this is 5 into 10, 50. So 5 into 10, it is 50, 50 plus 800. So that is 850 calorie. This is heat required to melt ice. Now, how much heat energy is provided by the steam? Let us calculate that. heat provided by steam. So Q lost is equal to mass of the steam into latent heat of steam plus mass of the water into specific heat of water into change in the temperature of water. So because water should get converted to like steam should be getting converted into water, and water is at 100 degrees Celsius, that 100 degrees Celsius water should be converted into water at 0 degrees Celsius. So that is the total heat lost. Q lost will be mass of the steam is 5 gram, latent heat of steam is 540 calorie plus mass of the water, like 5 gram getting converted into water, so it will be 5 gram into 1 delta theta, that is from 100 degrees Celsius it is getting converted to 0 degrees Celsius. This becomes 0, 5 4s 20, 5 5s 25, 25 27, 2700 calorie plus 500. This is equal to 3200 calorie is lost. But out of 3200 calorie, how much heat energy is required to melt the ice completely? Only 850 calorie is required to melt the ice. So out of total heat energy lost by the steam, required is only 850. So therefore, remember here, as Q required is greater than Q lost, ice completely melts. Ice is completely melted now, and in order to melt the ice, how much amount of heat energy is left over? Is required 850 calorie. So Q left is equal to 3200 minus 850. So this is 0, and 10 minus 5 is 5, and here it is 11, 11 minus 8, that is 3, and it is 2. 2350 calorie is left over. So after converting ice into water, still there is some amount of heat energy present over here. That heat energy is required to heat water at 0 degrees Celsius. So Q is equal to 2350 calorie is used in increasing temperature of water from 0 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius. Now 2350, this much amount of heat energy is left over there. Now what will be the total amount of water? Mass of the water will be 5 gram of steam is getting converted into water at 0 degrees Celsius. 10 gram of ice is also getting converted into water. Therefore, total mass of the water in the mixture will be 15 gram. In order to increase the temperature of 15 gram of water into 100 degrees Celsius, Q required will be equal to 15 gram into specific heat is 1 calorie per gram degree Celsius. Change in the temperature is 100. So Q required is equal to 1500 calorie. Observe this carefully. Okay. So we have Q finally 2350 calories left over, out of which 1500 calories used there. And still there is some amount of heat energy left. What is that leftover heat energy? Leftover heat energy will be 850 calorie. Okay. Water from 0 degrees Celsius is increasing its temperature to 100 degrees Celsius. Even then there is some heat energy left over, that is 850 calorie left over here. This 850 calorie is required, 850 calorie which is here is used to convert water into steam. So this 850 calorie converts water at 100 degrees Celsius to steam. So 1 gram of water gets converted to steam with 540 calorie. But how much heat is present here? In order to convert X gram, we have 850 calorie left over. Okay. So this gives you some X gram getting converted into steam, and remaining part is left over as water, but the temperature will remain 100 degrees Celsius itself. Most of the students will make mistake here. Simply we will be taking, you will be taking 2350 is equal to ms delta theta. Then delta theta you will be getting greater than 100. But practically water cannot take temperature more than 100 degrees Celsius. If you are providing heat energy such that its temperature is raised to 100 degrees Celsius, beyond that water gets converted to steam. Its temperature will not increase further from 100 degrees Celsius. That's what you need to remember. Water converted into steam is equal to X gram, that is 850 divided by 540 calorie, like gram. 0 gets cancelled, and you can cancel this. This gives you X is equal to 85 divided by 54 gram. This much amount of water is converted into steam, and remaining part water leftover will be equal to 15 gram minus 85 divided by 54 gram. So this is the total amount of water left over in the mixture. Final temperature is equal to 100 degrees Celsius. Remember this, final temperature is 100 degrees Celsius. Whenever steam is mixed with ice, if at all steam is mixed with ice, you should calculate first in the step 1. You should calculate how much heat energy is lost. This is step 1. And in step 2, you should calculate how much heat is required to melt ice. So how much heat is lost by the steam? First you should calculate, that is Q lost by the steam, and how much heat is required to melt the ice, that is Qi. And step 3, you should compare these two. If Qs is greater than Qi, ice is melt completely. If Qs is less than Qi, ice is not melt completely. If ice is not melt completely, final temperature will be definitely 0 degrees Celsius. Remember that. Now step 4. If at all Qs is greater than Qi, ice melts, and finally there will be water. Okay, and Q leftover will be equal to Qs minus Qi. That means you will subtract the difference between heat provided by the steam and heat required to melt the ice. After taking the subtraction, this Q left. So Q left should be written as mass of the water, specific heat of the water, change in temperature of the water. Remember, if delta theta change in temperature of water is greater than 100 degrees Celsius, some part of water converts to steam. Therefore, final temperature is equal to 100 degrees Celsius. Some part of mass of water is left over there, and remaining part will be like some part is converted into steam, some part will be converted into water. So out of the total mass, there will be some amount of steam and there will be some amount of water left over in the mixture. So mixture contain water and steam. Okay, so this is the procedure you need to follow when you are solving problems based on calorimetry, especially when you are mixing ice and steam. Generally, most of you make mistake here in this step 3 and step 4. In step 3, like if ice is not melt completely, then final temperature definitely you should take it as 0, but instead you will be taking some other value. And in step 4, if delta theta is greater than 100, you will be selecting that answer in the options, but that is wrong, because water temperature can never be greater than 100 degrees Celsius at room pressure. So that's the reason why if temperature which is obtained is greater than 100, then in such cases, some part of water gets converted to steam, some part will be remained as it is as water. Students, in the thermal properties of matter chapter, in the first part we have discussed about thermal expansion. And in thermal expansion, we have expansion of solids, expansion of liquids, and expansion of gases. This part comes under thermal expansion, and we have learned about temperature and different scales to measure temperature. That comes under thermal expansion. And the second part which we discussed is calorimetry. Calorimetry is measurement of heat energy, and in calorimetry we have discussed about change of the state, melting point, boiling point, and principle of calorimetry, how to find out specific heats. So those are things we have discussed in calorimetry. This is part 2 of thermal properties. And the third one, it is heat transfer. Heat transfer. Like as we know, matter is classified into 3 different types: solids, fluids, and gases. Sorry, like instead of fluids, I'll be taking it as liquids. So solid, liquid, and gases. Heat transfer takes place in solids. Heat transfer takes place in liquids. Heat transfer also takes place in gases. So whenever heat is transferred from hot body, there will be Q lost and there will be heat gained by the cold body. Hot body loses heat energy, cold body gain heat energy. But in the process of transfer of heat energy, there are different ways. In case of solids, heat transfer takes place by one method. In liquids, heat transfer takes place by one method, and in gases, heat transfer takes place by one method, and in vacuum, heat transfer takes place by the other method. So there are 3 different ways heat transfer takes place, that are number 1, conduction, number 2, convection, and number 3, radiation. These are the 3 different ways where heat transfer takes place. Conduction is the heat transfer in case of solids. Convection is heat transfer taking place in liquids and gases. and radiation is heat transfer taking place in the vacuum. So depending upon the nature of medium, depending on the state of the medium, heat transfer can be either by the process of conduction or either by the, excuse me, either by the process of convection or either by the process of radiation. In any of these three ways, heat transfer takes place. If two solid bodies are in contact with each other, heat transfer takes place from one solid to another solid by the process of conduction. Whereas if one liquid is mixed with the other liquid, heat transfer takes place by the process of convection. Whereas in vacuum, heat transfer takes place by the process of radiation. Here there are few examples which you can which supports the knowledge of conduction, convection and radiation. In the process of conduction, there is a rod here, right? There is a rod. You are providing heat energy to this rod, and this part is hot. This part is hot. And you are catching this rod at the other end, but after, like, initially at initial time, heat is only at the one end, which is in contact with this fire. That part is being hot. But after some time, the other end of the rod, which is not in contact with the fire, also gets heated up. So in order to avoid that heat, you are using a glove. You are using a glove here in order to, like, this glove is thermal insulator. That means it does not conduct any heat energy. So in order to save yourself from this heat energy, you are taking one glove and you are catching that rod. So in this process, heat transfer is by the way of conduction. So in solids, heat transfer takes place by the conduction. Mostly in metals, heat transfer takes place by the process of conduction. And the next is convection. In the process of convection, the air molecules which are present nearby this, the air molecules which are present nearby this fire, those air molecules gets heated up and their volume increases. As their volume increases, they become less denser. As they become less denser, they rise up. So these gas molecules is raised up, which you can feel with your hands when you are placing it above the fire. That is in the process of convection. Air molecules rise up due to process of convection. And coming to the radiation, in case of radiation, you're little bit farther from this fire, but you are able to sense hotness. So radiation, here there is vacuum. Like, even if you do not have any medium in between your hands and as well as the fire, heat transfer takes place from fire to your hand. That is by the process of radiation. So in vacuum, heat transfer takes place by the process of radiation. Now we will discuss about detailed discussion about conduction, convection and radiation. In the process of conduction, what actually happens is the transfer of thermal energy from one material to another by direct contact. There will be a direct physical contact between two objects in order to transfer heat energy by the process of conduction. So here in this case, the person is catching a rod. This person is catching a rod, and at this end, it is in contact with the fire. As a result, heat absorbed by the rod. One end of the rod, there are solid molecules. So what actually happens here is, you have a solid. This is solid, and there are few molecules here. These are solid atoms present within this solid. What actually happens is, this part is in contact with heat energy. First, these atoms get heated up, and these atoms will transfer heat energy to the next. This atom will transfer heat energy to the next one. This one will transfer heat energy to the next one. This one will transfer heat energy to the next one, and then this process goes on. Heat transfer takes place from one atom to another without any transfer of heat energy, without any motion of the molecules. Heat transfer takes place from one end of the solid to other end, just by transferring heat energy from one molecule to other, or from one atom to another. There is no actual transfer of atoms here. Only heat energy is being transferred due to the vibrations, atomic vibrations of the atoms which are present within this particular solid. So here we use a metal stick for fire. Your hand will get hot because the heat transfer from the fire to the metal to your hand. So heat transfer takes place into the metal, and in this metal atoms vibrate vigorously. Because of those atomic vibrations, heat transfer takes place, and slowly heat is being transferred to your hand. So in this case, heat transfer is due to atomic vibrations. Heat transfer is because of atomic vibrations. Atoms vibrate being in their own position to transfer their heat energy. And next is convection process. In the process of convection, it is because of the transfer of thermal energy by circulation or movement of a liquid or gas. So with the actual movement of liquid or gas, heat transfer takes place. Now this is like a balloon, which is this is a balloon. Here there is some heat energy provided. We have hot gases in this. So in a hot air balloon, the hot gases from the fire raises the balloon. The gases which are coming out from that fire, they rise up because their density decreases. So because of that volume increased, so suddenly all the gas molecules will be raised up, and those raised up gas molecules will be putting some effort to lift the balloon. So this is process of convection. In the process of convection, molecules move from one position to other. So molecules will be moving from one position to other position in the process of convection. This is in case of liquids and gases. Likewise, you can take a bowl and you can place it on the induction cooker, and there is some water here. So how does water boil? When water is boiling, you are able to see that the molecules which are at the bottom will be raised up, and the molecules which are at the top, they come down. That's the process of convection. And next is radiation. So in case of radiation, the energy is absorbed by the surface. It heats the surface. So energy is absorbed by the surface. Like when you are standing in sun, like in the out space, when you are standing in sun, the heat energy which is incidented upon your skin, it gets absorbed. So your body absorbs heat energy, and as a result, it will be releasing heat energy also. So absorption, whenever it is taking place, definitely release of heat energy also takes place. So in the process of radiation, radiation takes place due to in vacuum. Example, heat received by the earth from sun. So in between sun and earth, there is empty space, there is vacuum, but even then radiation is received by the earth's surface. Likewise, in the micro oven, this is micro oven. In micro oven, you are putting some hot objects. Actually here there will be air, but irrespective of the air, what happens here is this micro oven releases microwaves and radio waves. So these radiations, like not radio waves, I'm sorry, instead of radio waves, it is infrared waves. So these waves will be absorbed by this material which is present inside the oven, and it receives that heat energy, and this is process of radiation. So these are the three different ways where heat transfer takes place in the process of conduction, convection, and as well as radiation. As I already told you, in the process of conduction, heat transfer takes place without actual movement of the particles. There is no actual movement of the particles. Heat transfer will be taking place just by the atomic vibrations. One atom vibrate and it transfer heat energy to the next one, vice versa. So it takes place mainly in solids. It takes place in metals due to free electrons. Free electrons are responsible for electrical conduction and as well as thermal conduction. Now we are considering a good conductor, like this is a conductor of length L. This is a conductor, and this conductor is of length L. And this conductor is in the shape of rod, and whose opposite faces are maintained at different temperatures theta 1 and theta 2. Here is temperature theta 1, here is temperature theta 2. Considering that theta 1 is greater than theta 2, that means here it is hot and here it is cold. What actually happens here? Rod, as it is in contact with two different temperature, heat transfer takes place from hot region to cold region. Heat transfer takes place from A to B, like from this theta 1 to theta 2. Heat transfer takes place because it is placed between, it is in contact between two regions. One is hot region and the other one is cold region. And this heat transferred Q is directly proportional to area of cross section. It is directly proportional to area of cross section, because more area of cross section, if there is more area, there will be more free electrons. So if there is more area, there will be more free electrons. Therefore, more free electrons results easy transfer of heat energy. Therefore, the heat transferred Q is directly proportional to area of cross section. Greater area of cross section will have greater heat transfer. Say for example, you have a rod. This is having area of cross section A1, and you have another rod of same length. This is having A2. Here heat transferred is Q1. Here heat transferred is Q2. Obviously, Q2 will be greater than Q1, because area, since area A2 is greater than A1, right? That is Q transfer. Likewise, heat transferred is inversely proportional to length of the material, length of the rod. More is the length, more amount of heat is absorbed by the atoms. Atoms will vibrate, and in order to vibrate, some part of energy is utilized. Remaining part is being transferred to the other atom. So therefore, more is the length, more amount of heat energy is absorbed by the atomic vibrations. Therefore, Q is inversely proportional to length, and Q is directly proportional to change in the temperature. Like instead of change in the temperature, you can write temperature difference. Temperature difference. So Q is directly proportional to delta theta, which is temperature difference. So I can simply write Q proportional to A into delta theta divided by L. And if I remove this proportionality, I should include a constant. So Q will be equal to K, that constant is K, A delta theta divided by length L, where this K is called coefficient of thermal conductivity. It is called coefficient of thermal conductivity or thermal conductivity of the material. So this K is called thermal conductivity of the material. So this is how heat transfer takes place in solids. Heat transfer in solids is directly proportional to area of cross section, inversely proportional to length of the material, and directly proportional to the difference in the temperature between two ends of the rod, where this H is denoted as rate of heat transfer. Rate of heat transfer is Q divided by time taken T. So H is Q divided by T, rate of heat transfer. And this rate of heat transfer is directly proportional to area of cross section, change in the temperature, and inversely proportional to length L. Of course, if Q is proportional to A delta theta by L, Q by T also directly proportional to A delta theta divided by L, of course. And here H is equal to Q divided by T, which is directly proportional to, or which is equal to, I can just write this as equal to K A delta theta divided by L. Now from here I can write K is equal to Q divided by T into Q divided by T into A delta theta divided by L. So A delta theta by L, in the denominator I am writing it as it is. In the numerator it is Q by T. I can just replace this with H divided by A into H, it is thermal conductivity, H divided by A into delta theta divided by L. This is equation for thermal conductivity. This is equation for thermal conductivity. Unit of thermal conductivity is watt per meter Kelvin. So here, what is unit of heat energy? Heat energy is joule per second. So in the numerator it is J per S divided by area unit is meter square. Delta theta is degree Celsius, or you can write it as Kelvin, divided by length unit is meter. Meter and meter gets cancelled. Joule per second is watt divided by meter Kelvin. This is unit in SI system. And remember, K is thermal conductivity, which depends on nature of the material. It is independent of length. It is independent of area of cross section and temperature difference. It is not dependent upon these factors. Heat transfer is dependent upon length, area of cross section and temperature, but coefficient of thermal conductivity, or K, is independent of length, area and temperature. And for perfect conductor, K is equal to infinity generally for metals. K is very large. And for perfect insulator, K is equal to 0, which will not transfer any heat energy. And K value is more, it is a good conductor of heat energy. K value, if it is less, it is bad conductor of heat energy. For metals, K value is very, very large. This is coefficient of thermal conductivity.